If you were to ask me, what are the 5 questions that I've gotten asked the most as a rabbi over the course of my career? I don't know if this is number 1, but it is pretty close to number 1, which is, what time is Yizkor? So the listening in the days of answering machines, as I'd be walking into the synagogue in the morning to someone calling the synagogue saying, "Can you tell me what time Yizkor will be today?" which is usually responded with, "Services begin at the following time." People come for Yizkor. In fact, the rabbis placed Yizkor on the holiday days that they knew the fewest people would otherwise be coming in order to get people to come to services on those days. There's a reason it's on the 2nd day of Shavuot and the 8th day of Passover and on Shmini Atzeret on Sukkot, because everyone comes for Yizkor. And there are many reasons why that happens to be the case. Some of us come to remember our cherished parents, others to remember beloved spouses, still others to remember the devastating loss of children or close friends. Some of you will leave after the sermon because you still have living parents. For the entirety of our lives, Yizkor has been the day to remember our closest loved ones and honor their memories. But interestingly, that is not the point of Yizkor. Yizkor was developed actually in medieval Germany following the Crusades. Having suffered such devastating losses, the community required the opportunity to come together in their shared sense of loss. There was already a thing called a Yortzeit, an opportunity for people to come when they suffered a personal loss. But what happens when we're suffering communal losses? What opportunities exist to share communal grief? This is the origin not only of Yizkor, but the martyrology service that we'll do later on this morning. And so, over the course of that service, nearly 1,000 years ago, they would first remember the martyrs of that year, eventually expanding the service to include all community members that passed away during that year, and then later yet, recalling all of our loved ones who have passed away. As such, the original objective of the Yizkor service was the opportunity to express the depth of the sadness that we had for those lost lives, especially those who were lost because of who they were or defending who they were. While the addition of the opportunity for personal mourning is a welcome and important component of the Yizkor service, the loss of the opportunity to remember the martyrs, those who lost their lives simply because they were, has gone tragically missing. The acknowledgement of those who gave their lives for others has been shunted to a portion of the service that many of you will no longer be here for, once we've already lost some amount of steam and are likely counting down the pages to the full Kaddish. So today, while we'll also honor the memory of our own family members and friends, I also want to use this time as an opportunity to remember the original point of the Yizkor service, as an opportunity for us to come together in a shared sense of loss, in a communal sense of grief. Now, I first started grappling with this particular component of the Yizkor service back in 2018. Now, I was someone who always had to be in for Yizkor. My parents were not parents who said, "You need to leave, we're alive." They were ones who said, "There are still plenty of people for you to remember. You need to stay inside of the service." And then I became a rabbi, and then I definitely had to stay in for the remainder of the service. And so as I was reflecting in preparation for the high holidays in 2018, I saw a cartoon that was made of one of the individuals that was tragically killed in Parkland, Florida, at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. It was someone by the name of Aaron Feist. And after Yom Tov is over, please feel free to go on the internet and look up. It's called Heroes Welcome. Because Aaron Feist was an assistant football coach and security officer at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School and was one of the 17 students and teachers killed on that day. He was killed because he ran into the building where the attack was happening and jumped between a student and the gunman, pushing that student out of harm's way, saving her and so many other lives. In other words, as we encounter as part of the martyrology service later today, he stood as an immovable rock, as scores of shooters' bullets made of his body a sieve. And this cartoon was of Aaron Feist, a tremendous man, walking into heaven while holding the hand of one of the young people who was unfortunately accompanying him on that journey. As she said, "Mr. Feist, we're so happy to see you. So many of us want to thank you." The themes of Yizkor, the themes of the martyrology service, are about these moments of shared and communal grief that we have in large moments, as we had in the aftermath of September 11th, as we remembered those who were killed on that day, as we remember so many who have given their lives. Now, I, for one, once again, in 2025, feel similar to the way that I felt in 2018. I also feel a shared sense of loss, of grief, of sadness. And there are plenty of spaces within our world where we discuss how to solve the world's problems, where we express our displeasure with the actions that exist within our world, where we desire for a different and better future, and those things are incredibly important. But I can't think of any space that is singularly designed just to be sad, to allow us to be sad together, to allow us to grieve together, to allow us to express our sadness while with the support and love of our community, where each and every one of us have time in silence to remember not only our loved ones who have passed away, but to feel a deep sadness for the tragic losses that we all too often encounter, whether within our nation here, whether in Israel and Gaza, whether throughout the world. Too many people's lives are being lost. And too few spaces exist for us to remember them, to treasure them, and for us to feel all the feelings that are so deeply felt within each and every one of us. I reflect on a teaching that came from a somewhat non-traditional source, which is from the West Wing. There was an episode shortly after the September 11th attacks in which the President of the United States gets up and expresses the following: "More than any time in recent history, our destiny is not of its own choosing. We did not seek, nor did we provoke an assault on our freedom and our way of life. We did not expect, nor did we invite a confrontation with evil. Yet the true measure of a people's strength is how they rise to master that moment when it does arrive. 44 people were killed a couple of hours ago at Kensington State University. 3 swimmers from the men's team were killed and 2 others are in critical condition when, after having heard the explosion from their practice facility, they ran into the fire to help to get the people out." Ran into the fire. The streets of heaven are too crowded with angels tonight. There are students and our teachers and our parents and our friends. The streets of heaven are too crowded with angels. When every time we think we've measured our capacity to meet a challenge, we look up and we're reminded that our capacity may well yet be limitless. This is a time for heroes. We will do what is hard. We will achieve what is great. This is a time for heroes, and we reach for the stars. God bless their memory. As this service is designed to remind us, the streets of heaven are too crowded with angels. our students and our teachers, our parents and our friends. And as we gather together to honor our individual family members and friends, we must also gather together to remember those who have died trying to save and protect others. We remember so many lives, not only Aaron Feises, but this year we remember Ingvar Sege Vigner, a 33-year-old new mother who threw herself upon her newborn child as part of the Jaffa light rail attack this year. We remember those on October 7th who stood in the way of the bullets and barrage of attackers. And we remember with sadness all whose lives are tragically being lost, even as we speak. All of these lives are lost too soon. And so may we, as the Yizkor prayer reminds us, give charitably and act righteously to honor their memories, so that their lives are not given in vain. And in doing so, we assure that their memories always endure as a blessing, and that their lives will continue in each and every one of us. Let us take a moment at this time, as we recite our Yizkor prayers, to recall our loved ones, as well as recall and join together in our sadness for all those we may not have ever met, but whose lives we treasure, whose lives we appreciate, whose lives were tragically lost, as we remember them this day. Yehi zichram baruch. May all their memories be for a blessing. Amen.
Amen.